I remember the way she stood there. Eloise May Thompson, 74 years old, 5 feet tall, born in Selma, Alabama. She wasn't hurting anyone. She wasn't loitering. She was just holding a silk scarf. And for that, she was handcuffed. Not questioned. Not asked politely. Handcuffed. Like a criminal. Like a thief. Like her brown skin had already confessed. It was a Tuesday morning, early spring, and I was at the Macy's on Lincoln Avenue, working my part-time shift as assistant floor manager in accessories. The store was quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the gentle hum of ceiling lights, the muffled jazz from the speakers, and the sighs of old mannequins stuck in poses since the Clinton administration. She walked in slow, cane in one hand, handbag in the other. Her coat was pressed, pink with white buttons, neat as a Sunday sermon. Her eyes scanned the display table like she was looking for something specific. "Good morning, ma'am," I said as I approached. "Can I help you find anything?" She looked up, her voice soft but steady. "Yes, baby. I'm looking for a gift." I smiled. "Well, you've come to the right place." She told me her granddaughter had just gotten her first job, corporate, downtown, the whole thing. And Eloise, proud as only a southern black grandmother could be, wanted to get her something special. "She workin' with all them white folks now." She chuckled. "I need her lookin' like a CEO before they know who the real boss is." We both laughed. She walked with slow grace to the designer section, silk scarves, imported from Italy, hand-stitched. Most customers didn't even ask the price. Eloise didn't ask either. She found one, deep blue with gold accents. She said, fingers brushing the fabric. "That's it." I helped her to the counter. She pulled out cash, crisp, folded by careful hands. Paid without flinching. No discounts, no coupons. I wrapped it slowly, with respect. She nodded. "Thank you, baby. You've been kind." And she walked out. That should have been the end of the story. But then, Officer Riley showed up. He wasn't supposed to be in the store. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near retail that day. But according to what I'd later overhear from security, someone had made a suspicious activity call. "Black woman," the voice had said. "Elderly. Bought an expensive item. Looked nervous." Looked nervous. Like that was a crime. Like being cautious while black meant probable cause. 10 minutes after she left, 2 squad cars pulled up. Flashing lights. Doors slamming. They found her waiting at the bus stop. Quiet. Still smiling. Shopping bag in hand. They told her to stand. She struggled to rise. They yanked her up anyway. She tried to explain. She told them her name, her purchase, her reason. She even pointed back at the store through the glass. I was already running out to them, receipt in hand. But by then it was too late. They had her wrists twisted behind her back. And that scarf? It lay on the sidewalk like it was guilty too. I shouted. "She paid. I have the receipt." But Riley, tall, pale, buzz-cut, jaw tight like he chewed on justice for breakfast, just glared at me. "This doesn't concern you." "She's a customer," I yelled. "I helped her myself." "Stay back." And in that moment I saw it. He wasn't arresting a suspect. He was arresting a symbol. Eloise looked at me as they pushed her into the cruiser. Not angry. Not scared. Just tired. Like she'd seen this before. Like she'd lived it in black and white long before the world pretended to go color. I never forgot her eyes. Because they weren't asking, "Why is this happening?" They were saying, "Why is it still happening?" The worst part wasn't the arrest. It was what came after. I filed the report. I had to. I needed to. I saw it with my own eyes, a 74-year-old woman, dragged off for buying a scarf. A scarf, man. I stayed after my shift, typed every detail. Time of sale, 10:37 a.m. Item purchased, silk designer scarf, $248. Paid in full cash. No signs of theft, no alarms, No store alerts. Witnessed by me, Marcus Delaney, Assistant Floor Manager, Macy's Lincoln Avenue. I included the receipt number, surveillance camera times, and even a photo I'd taken earlier that morning with Eloise. She'd asked me to snap one of her holding the shopping bag, smiling proud. I submitted everything to Macy's corporate. CC'd the precinct. Even sent a copy to my cousin Jamal, who worked in legal aid downtown. And then? Silence. 3 days passed. No word. So I followed up. My email bounced. Mailbox not found. Strange. I called the department directly. Hello, I'm calling about a report submitted regarding an elderly black woman. The operator cut me off. Are you the suspect's relative? Excuse me? I asked. She repeated colder. Are you a family member or attorney of the suspect? She's not a suspect. She bought a scarf and was wrongly detained. I'm a witness. Then you'll need to speak to public affairs. Hold. Click. Static. Hold music. Then nothing. That night Jamal called. Yo, Marcus, he said. Something's off. I sat up in bed. What happened? I tried pulling the incident from the public system. It's not there. No arrest record under her name. No report filed under Officer Riley. No footage submitted. It's like it didn't happen. My stomach turned. But I saw it. I know, he said. That's why it's scary. I went back to the store the next morning. Security guard Carl, a Vietnam vet who never missed anything, pulled me aside. They wiped the tapes, he said. What? The footage from that morning, gone. I asked the tech guys. They said it was pulled and scrubbed. Per corporate request. But we're talking about an elderly woman. Doesn't matter, he said grimly. You poked the wrong bear, Marcus. That was when I realized. They weren't just ignoring it. They were erasing it. Not out of laziness. Out of intent. 2 days later, my store manager, Mr. Klein, called me into his office. I thought maybe he wanted to back me up. He didn't even look me in the eye. Marcus, we've had some concerns raised about your behavior. What behavior? I asked. You've been contacting external parties, discussing internal security matters, making accusations. Accusations? She was arrested for buying a scarf. He sighed, like I was the child in the room. We need you to focus on your responsibilities. If you continue pushing this, we'll have to reevaluate your position here. Just like that, the company turned its back. My colleagues avoided me. My shifts were cut. I started noticing people whispering as I passed by in the break room. I wasn't a whistleblower. I was becoming a problem. But I didn't stop. I went to her apartment in South Shore. I found her name, Eloise May Thompson, on the building directory. I rang the buzzer. A long silence. Then a voice. Who is it? It's Marcus. From Macy's. Another pause. Then the door buzzed open. Her place was small, worn but tidy. Family photos lined the mantel. Her granddaughter's graduation cap hung in a shadow box. She looked thinner than before. I didn't think anyone would come, she said softly. I saw what happened, I told her. And I tried. I filed the report. She raised her hand. Baby, she said. They've been doing this a long time. They know how to make it vanish. She poured me sweet tea, hands trembling. Then said something I'll never forget. They try to steal your dignity quiet. But sometimes the noise needs to come from us. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of her face pressed against that cold police car window haunted me. I knew I had to do more. So I picked up my phone. And I posted everything. It took less than 6 hours. My post went viral. I didn't expect it. I thought maybe a few dozen people would share it. Maybe someone in media would notice. Maybe. Instead, it exploded. Over 220,000 shares. Thousands of comments. My phone buzzed nonstop. Hashtag justice for Eloise. People were angry, outraged, calling for answers, demanding resignations, naming the officers. By nightfall, Eloise was trending on Twitter. And by morning? CNN. Reporters came. They called, they emailed, they showed up to the store. My manager looked like he aged 10 years overnight. The district office sent a lawyer to talk to me. She said things like, "Let's keep this internal. We can offer you a severance package. You're a valued employee." But I saw the fear behind her eyes. She knew this wasn't going to stay quiet. They were scared. Because now everyone knew. Eloise, though, she wasn't doing well. I visited her again. She looked even thinner. Her hands shook when she poured tea. "They call my phone," she whispered. "Block numbers. Hang up. Sometimes they just breathe." She hadn't left her apartment in days. She said she felt like a target. Like she wasn't safe. She wasn't wrong. I saw the patrol car outside. Parked half a block down. Unmarked. Same one that picked her up. So I did something reckless. I called them out. On video. I stood outside the Macy's where it all happened. Held my phone. And I spoke. "My name is Marcus Delaney. I witnessed an innocent woman arrested for shopping while black. I saw 2 officers violate her rights. I've reported it. And now the report is gone. Surveillance footage? Gone. My job? Threatened. Her dignity? Destroyed. If you care about justice, don't let this be another headline that fades. We don't need hashtags. We need consequences." That video? Over 3 million views. And this time, it wasn't just noise. A week later, a civil rights attorney named Felicia Monroe contacted me. "I'm representing Ms. Thompson," she said. "We're filing a federal lawsuit. False arrest. Racial profiling. Civil liberties violations. We want you to testify." I didn't even blink. "I'm in." But the more noise we made, the more things started happening in the shadows. Someone slashed my tires. Someone left a dead bird on Eloise's doorstep. Then someone sent her a letter. "Drop the case. Or we'll bury you." Typed. No return address. That was when I realized. We weren't fighting just 2 bad cops. We were fighting a whole system that protected them. And they were willing to do anything to keep that protection in place. The media storm raged for days. News outlets scrambled for interviews. Riley's department issued statement after statement, trying to deflect blame. They were claiming the arrest was a miscommunication. Macy's issued their own statement as well, claiming they were working closely with law enforcement to review store security practices. But despite the noise, despite the pressure, nothing felt different. Everything was still the same. The same systemic silence. The same disregard. I knew something was off. Something deeper. I went back to Eloise's apartment. She wasn't answering my calls anymore, not returning my texts. I figured she was just overwhelmed, but the lack of contact gnawed at me. When I arrived at her building, the front door was unlocked. That wasn't typical. The hallways were dark, the kind of dark that feels a little too quiet. The kind of dark where you can almost hear the walls whispering. I knocked on her door. Nothing. I knocked again. Still nothing. Panic rose in my chest. I rang her buzzer. Still no answer. I went downstairs to the building manager. Her name was Mrs. Doyle, a woman in her 50s who'd worked the desk since before I was born. "Have you seen Eloise today?" I asked. Mrs. Doyle's face went pale. She didn't speak. She only shook her head. "No. She didn't come back last night. I tried calling her. I didn't wait for her to finish. I ran back upstairs. Her apartment door was cracked open now. I couldn't explain it, but I pushed it open. The apartment was empty. Not a single trace of Eloise. Her purse was on the kitchen counter. Her cane was propped against the hallway wall. The scarf she'd bought, still in the bag, untouched, on the dining room table. I searched the place, frantic. But there was no sign of her. The panic turned to rage. How could this happen? Where the hell was she? I went back to the precinct, demanding answers. Officer Riley was there. I walked up to him with fire in my eyes. I need to know where she is, Riley. His expression didn't change. He stood tall, leaning on the desk. His jaw clenched tighter. She's not in custody. We've had no new reports on her, he said too calmly. Then where the hell did she go? I shouted. She's not answering her phone. She's not at home. And now you're telling me you have no idea where she is? I told you, he repeated coldly. She's not in our system. There's nothing else I can do. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I wanted to strike him. To do something. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. It only made me more dangerous. The next day, I received an anonymous email. The subject line was simple. She's not coming back. The message was short. She knows what's going on. She went to ground. You'll never find her unless you stop asking. Trust me. I tried everything I could think of. I filed more reports. I sent more emails. I posted more. But in the back of my mind I knew. Eloise had vanished. Not by accident. Not because she was hiding. She had been made to disappear. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about one old woman being wrongly arrested. This was about a system that had erased her. Erased her story. Erased her value. Her life didn't matter to them. But it mattered to me. And I wasn't going to stop. The whispers in the walls weren't about her anymore. They were about me. I wasn't the only one asking questions anymore. When the story about Eloise Thompson broke, it wasn't just a flash in the pan. The public rallied behind it. Everyone was asking why an elderly black woman had been dragged away in cuffs for nothing more than buying a scarf. It wasn't just a bad apple situation. People started questioning how much of this was happening across the country, in stores, on the streets, in neighborhoods just like hers. But the problem wasn't just about what had happened to Eloise. It was about the things that people weren't saying, the things that were kept hidden beneath layers of silence, until someone like me came along and cracked that surface open. The more I dug, the darker it got. I got a call from Jamal one night late. He was frantic, whispering, "Marcus, I found something. You need to listen." He had uncovered something I didn't expect, a connection between the police department and the retail chains in the city. Not just Macy's, but several others. There were reports of systemic overpolicing in black neighborhoods, disproportionately targeting black residents, and the stores were complicit. It was all tied up together. Store security forces that knew how to get the police involved when certain people walked into the store. Police officers who were paid off for their discretion when it came to handling incidents in affluent, predominantly white areas. A series of silent arrests, where people would disappear, and their cases would never make it to the public record. I couldn't believe it. I had to see it with my own eyes. Jamal forwarded me some confidential documents. These weren't just ordinary emails. They were detailed, well-organized memos showing meetings between department heads at Macy's and precinct commanders. The pattern was clear. Certain stores in the city were used as staging grounds for arrests. Not for criminals. Not for anyone guilty of a crime. But for behavioral profiling. The kind of behavior that didn't fit the narrative of good citizens. The more I read, the more it made sense. Why Eloise had been picked out. Why her case wasn't just a random mistake. It wasn't an accident. I went back to Eloise's building again. I had to find out more. I couldn't let it go. When I arrived, Mrs. Doyle was waiting for me. "I heard they're looking for you," she whispered, glancing nervously around. "They've got people in the building. I'm not sure what's going on, but you need to be careful, Marcus." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice low. They were asking questions. About Eloise. About the scarf. I don't know if they were cops, or who they were, but they were asking around about you too. What you're up to. I heard some things. They don't want you digging any further. My heart sank. This was bigger than I had thought. Where is she, Mrs. Doyle? Have you seen Eloise? I asked, my voice desperate. She shook her head. No, but I've been hearing things. Whispers. People who disappear around here don't just vanish, at least not without help. That night, I received an encrypted email. The subject. They know what you found. I opened it quickly. You're getting too close. If you keep this up, you won't just lose your job. You won't just lose your reputation. You'll lose everything. Don't think you're the first person to dig. You've been warned. I knew it was a threat. But I also knew I couldn't back down. The system had taken Eloise, and it had made her invisible. Now, it was trying to do the same thing to me. But I wasn't going to let them win. I started digging deeper into the pattern of these disappearances. It wasn't just Eloise. There had been others. Black women, black men, people who didn't fit the mold, all swept under the rug. I called in every favor I could, from people who worked in law, in media, even in the streets. Slowly, the pieces came together. But every answer led to more questions. No one could give me a name. No one could tell me who was pulling the strings. It was all too calculated. And it was too dangerous. By the time I went to sleep that night, I was more certain than ever. I wasn't just fighting for Eloise anymore. I was fighting for every name that had been erased before hers. The days blurred into one long, desperate pursuit of the truth. I wasn't just dealing with a corrupt police department anymore. I wasn't just fighting a rigged system in the city. I was up against an empire. A hidden network of power, where money and influence could erase lives, destroy reputations, and cover up any traces of wrongdoing. I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't even trust myself, not with all the threats hanging over me. The constant feeling of being watched. The paranoia that gnawed at me day and night. I went to the one place I knew would give me the answers, even if it was a risk. It was an underground forum, a place where whistleblowers and insiders met. It was dark. Anonymous. Only those with something to lose went there, and I had more than enough to risk. I logged in. My screen blinked for a moment before the chat window popped up. There was only one message waiting for me. You're too close. But if you want the truth, meet me at Pier 12. Midnight. It felt like a trap, but I had no other choice. I couldn't let this go. That night, I drove out to the pier. It was cold, the wind biting at my skin as I got out of the car. The only light was the dim glow of street lamps, casting shadows across the empty docks. I stood there for a long time, waiting. Then I heard the footsteps. I turned. It was him. A tall figure in a dark coat, face obscured by a hat and scarf. The person didn't say a word, just stood there, watching me. You know what's going on, don't you? I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure nodded slowly. Then, he pulled something from his pocket and handed it to me. It was a small USB drive. Everything you need, the voice said, low and steady. You're not the first to ask. But you might be the first to survive asking. I didn't wait for more. I took the drive and ran back to the car, my heart racing. I couldn't believe what I was about to uncover. Back at my apartment, I plugged the USB into my laptop. The files were encrypted, but I had everything I needed to break the code. It took me hours, but eventually it all came together. The documents were chilling. They showed a web of corruption stretching back years. The police department, the city's wealthiest retailers, even politicians were involved. It wasn't just about the money they made, it was about power. The power to erase people like Eloise. The power to silence anyone who didn't fit their agenda. The names were there. The signatures. And right in the center there it was. A key player I didn't expect. Officer Riley. He was more than just a crooked cop. He was the ringleader. The man who had been orchestrating the disappearances. The one who had been making sure the system kept running smoothly, erasing lives for personal gain. I had him. I had everything. Now, it was time to take him down. I didn't hesitate. I went to the media with the files. I called every news station I could find. I made sure everyone knew what was happening, who was behind it, and who had been hurt. The public outrage was deafening. Riley's department crumbled under the weight of the scandal. Macy's distanced themselves, and other stores were forced to answer for their role in the system. But even in victory, the truth was hard to swallow. I found Eloise. She had been hiding, but not because she was scared. She was hiding because she had known what was coming. She knew how far this went. She knew that if she had stayed in the spotlight, she would have been silenced. She wasn't running away from justice. She was waiting for it. Eloise looked at me with calm eyes when I found her. "I knew you'd come for me," she said quietly. "You were never supposed to see the truth, Marcus. But you did." And in that moment I understood. This wasn't just about one woman. It wasn't just about a single wrong. It was about a system that had been built to keep people like Eloise invisible. To make them nothing more than whispers in the walls. But the walls were crumbling now. And we were the ones making them fall.